Good afternoon. Welcome to today's CI Tools webinar. My name is Josh Osborne and I'm the product manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation. And this is our weekly webinar that we run to talk about the CI Tools. This week we're going to be looking at some things to do with the ArchiCAD 29 upgrade. Just wanted to go over some frequently asked questions about how the upgrade works and that sort of thing. So we'll go over those first, and then we will also have a quick look at the new functionality in the fit out tool after that as well. But the main thing I want to cover is just a couple of things, mainly about library loading and migrating your project. First, if you were here for last week's webinar, it's going to be pretty much the same thing that we talked about that time. So you may not see anything new in this one if you were here for last week. But otherwise, hopefully this should be helpful. If you have any questions that you think of over the course of the webinar, or just that come up as part of what we're talking about, please just send those through either in the chat while the webinar is running, or email them to us afterwards at nz.support@centralinnovation.com. That will make its way through to our support team, and they will either help you or they will send your message through to me, and I can help you after that as well. Obviously, today we're going to be working in ArchiCAD 29. All of the stuff we'll be looking at is version 29 specific. To some extent, it will be useful if you are migrating from 27 to 28 as well, when we talk about the migration tool. But most of it are going to be focusing on what you need to know for 29. So if you're not on ArchiCAD 29, this isn't going to be much help for you either, I'm afraid. But apart from that, I'm just going to quickly check and see if anything has come up before I start, and then we'll get into what I wanted to look at today. Okay. So the first thing I want to look at is opening up a ArchiCAD 28 project in ArchiCAD 29. So as you may know, when the ArchiCAD 28 update came out, this brought in a change to the library management, specifically to do with the new library package system. So a lot of you who did that migration from 27 to 28, or some older version to 28, have probably already migrated your projects. And so to get to ArchiCAD 29 involves quite a lot less steps to make that work, but there are still a couple of things to watch out for. So that's what we're going to look at first. So I'm just going to open up my ArchiCAD 28 project here, and we'll have a look at what we need to do to make sure that that is updated to work in 29. So I'm just going to hit open there, and while that opens up, we will, oh no, it looks like it's going to open up pretty quickly. What it will do is it will open up and it will load our ArchiCAD 28 libraries still. So it's going to load all of the ArchiCAD 28 libraries, and it's going to complain a lot about CI Tools versions being out of date, as you can see here, because it is loading the old ArchiCAD 28 library, not the new 29 one. So this is expected. That's fine. It's just because it's loading your 28 libraries, not the 29 ones. So we'll just hit OK through all of these messages it's going to bring up, and then we can swap them out, which is what we're going to be doing here today. And once you save the project after you've done this, you won't have to do it any more times. So we can just click through here. It'll load up our project as we would expect. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the library manager and see what's going on, and then correct it. So I'll go to the file menu and library manager, and it will show me the libraries I have loaded. So first of all, we've got the ArchiCAD library packages. You can see them all here. And if I select one of them, you can see the path is to Applications, Graphisoft ArchiCAD 28. So even though I'm in ArchiCAD 29, it's still using my 28 libraries. Now this is fine. You can keep those exactly as they are. They will work no problem in ArchiCAD 29. However, you won't get any of the new things that are in ArchiCAD 29. There's a couple of new things in the library, particularly to do with MEP. So what I would recommend doing here would be to update these to the 29 libraries instead. So I'm just going to select all of these ArchiCAD library packages and remove them, clicking this button here. And then I'll add in the 29 versions. So I'm going to go to my Graphisoft folder, ArchiCAD 29, ArchiCAD library packages, and I'll just select them all from here. You probably won't want to select all of them. You'll want to select just the ones that you want, but it's not going to cause me any harm by selecting all of them here. And that's a nice and quick way of doing it. So I'll hit open and those will load in. So you'll see now I have the new lib packs loaded and they all go to the ArchiCAD 29 path here. So that is done for the ArchiCAD library packages. And then for the CI Tools library packages, we need to do the same. So you can see that they are going to Applications, Graphisoft, ArchiCAD 28, CI Tools library packages. So we're just going to swap those with 29 as well. So we'll just remove all of those. So select them and hit that delete button down the bottom, and then we'll add those. So from our ArchiCAD 29 folder, we've got CI Tools library packages. We'll select everything in there, hit open, and those will load in there as well. And now I can hit OK. Wait for my libraries to load. Okay, libraries have finished loading. And you can see everything is as it was before. We just have the correct libraries now. So if I go back in here, you'll be able to see that everything is still 29. I've got a couple of warnings because this project has been migrated quite a few times. So there's actually a few missing things from the 28 upgrade, but that's fine. But if your library manager was looking fine before you migrated to 29, it should still be the same after you make this library change. And if we now save this project, the next time we open it, it will be using those 29 libraries. So we won't get that problem with it loading the old libraries any times after this. We've just fixed it for this project now, and we can continue on. So this is essentially doing the same thing as in older versions when you would open the project and it would say, do you want to migrate your libraries? And you click the button and it would put in the migration libraries. We're essentially just doing that part for 29. So that's all you need to do there. Open your library manager, swap out the 28 libraries for the 29 libraries, and then save your project and you're done. So that is migrating from ArchiCAD 28 to 29. If you are migrating from an older version, so 27 or earlier, there's a couple of things that you need to know about. So with the new change to the library packages, one of the things that will happen when you do this is that if you directly migrate to using library packages in a project that you created before ArchiCAD 28, all of your objects are going to be missing because they don't exist anymore in the new library packages. So we'll have a look at how this looks and how we can fix it. There's a couple of different options. So I'm going to open up a ArchiCAD 27 project here. There we go. And we'll just see what we get here. So there's a couple of things that will happen. It's going to open up our project, and the first option that we get is to tell us that the migration assistant has seen that we don't have the 28 or 29 libraries loaded, and we want to automatically migrate those. If you've answered on this before saying don't show this warning anymore, you won't get this. So we'll have to do it manually. So I'll skip this so that we can see how that looks. But if you press the migrate button here, that will do the migration for you. That's not the complete process, but it is the first step of the process. I'm going to skip for now just so I can show you how to do it manually if you have turned this dialog off though. So we'll skip that for now. We'll let it load up, and it's just going to load up exactly the libraries that it had loaded in ArchiCAD 27. So that means all of the ArchiCAD 27 libraries, which means that we're going to get those same error messages again. So we can just click through those. Okay. So our library has loaded up now, and everything looks okay for now. But you'll see that all of my, did I press the wrong option then? Library manager, here we go. All of my libraries are the ArchiCAD 27 libraries still. So if we want to update our libraries, we're going to need to do something here. Now, as I mentioned, with the change to library packages, everything is going to go missing if we do that. So first of all, what we need to do is decide if we do actually need to migrate to using library packages. Now, for most cases, I would say in about 90% of cases, you don't need to migrate to the library packages on a project that is coming from 27 or earlier. Uh, if you are migrating a project from there, you're probably at least partway through the project, if not very close to the end. And so there's not really any reason to migrate to the new library packages for that project. I would suggest just finishing it off using the old libraries. We can update to using the LCF libraries, which I'll show you how to do in a moment. But we don't need to migrate to library packages. There's not really any reason for you to do that. The only reason that you would want to migrate to library packages is if this is a project that is like a template or a sort of a base model that you use to base a lot of your projects on. And so you want that to be updated to sort of the new system. And so that's what we'll look at doing by swapping to library packages as well. But in most cases, you won't need to do a migration to library packages, and I wouldn't recommend it just because there is quite a lot more work involved, and it's not really worthwhile for you to do since it's not particularly necessary. So if you're in the situation where you're just opening a project from an older version in 28 or 29 because you want to finish it off in that version for some reason, then what you would do is when we had the dialogue earlier asking about migrating our libraries, or if you have it skipped, you can come into here and you can press the upgrade button, which I believe is this one here, and that will upgrade our libraries for us. Now, before you can do this, what you need to do is install something called the Monolith Migration Library. If you go to the Graphisoft website in the downloads section, you will find a link to this. You can also find it on MyCI, or you can contact our support team and they can give you a link to it. But you'll need to install this Monolith Migration Library to be able to do this, and it will install into your Graphisoft folder. You can see I've got it installed here. So it's called the ArchiCAD Monolith Migration Library NZE, and this has all of the old libraries in it. So it's not specific to ArchiCAD 29. This will work in future versions as well. It will also work in ArchiCAD 28 as well. So it puts itself outside of a specific ArchiCAD folder and just directly into your Graphisoft folder. Once this is installed, once your Monolith Migration Library is installed, when you open one of these older projects in ArchiCAD 29, you can press this Migrate button, which is, I think, this one. Yeah. So the Migrate ArchiCAD Libraries command, it tells you what it's going to do when you do it. And we press the Migrate button, and you'll see that it has removed the ArchiCAD Library 27 and that sort of thing, and it's put our Monolith Migration Library in instead. So you can see that is loaded up in there, and that contains everything that was in there before. It hasn't touched anything else, so that we can leave all of those as they are. However, we do need to do one extra step, which is that the ArchiCAD Monolith Migration Library obviously does not have the CI tools library in it. So we're going to need to drop in the CI tools Monolith Migration Library as well. So once you upgrade your ArchiCAD library, migrate your ArchiCAD library, we'll also need to add the CI tools one. So we go add, look in our ArchiCAD 29 folder, and you'll see that alongside CI tools library packages, we also have a folder called CI tools Monolith Migration Library. We'll just select that and hit OK. And now we have those both ready to go. And if I click OK, it will load the libraries and we will be ready to go with that. So everything will essentially continue to work using the old style libraries, and it should all work in the way that you would expect it to. So you can see our model didn't really change when we did that. And now it's happy about all of the libraries that we have. So those are still working. You can see my coverings are still appearing over there, and it looks like I have the layer turned off, but all of my furniture and that sort of thing should still be in there as well. Yeah, you can see my cabinets and that sort of thing. So that is the best way to do that in most cases. So if you're migrating for 27 or something like that, let it do the library migration, add in the ArchiCAD 29 CI tools monolith migration library, and then continue on and finish the project that way. If you are one of the 10% of users who need to migrate because, as I said, you're migrating a template or something like that. What we need to do for that is a little bit more involved, and there's a document on how to do this on our knowledge base. So I recommend reading that first because there are quite a few steps involved. You need to migrate your favorites. You need to make sure that your surfaces are migrated and all of that sort of thing. It is quite a big process to do. It's not incredibly complicated. It's just quite a lot more involved than simply swapping in a library. But we have built a little helper, which is in our CI Tools Launchpad tool to help with that. So we'll have a look at the way that that works. So I'm just going to open this project again, pretending that we didn't do that migration. So I'll just hit don't save, and we'll open it up again, and I'll show you what you need to do if you do want to do a full migration. So we're going to skip library migration again. And what we need to do is we need to load up the old library, so the library that we are from the version we're coming from. So in this case, the ArchiCAD 27 one, and we need to load the new libraries at the same time. So click through all of these again. And again, on any project you do this. Once you've done it, you don't have to do it any more times on this project. You will need to do it for your other projects, obviously, but it will be fixed for this project. So all of this stuff that we're clicking through will go away once we save it, once we're done. So going into our library manager, I'll wait for the drawing to update. Now going into the library manager. You can see we're using ArchiCAD Library 27 still, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to also load the ArchiCAD 29 versions of the libraries. So we'll click the Add button, go into ArchiCAD 29, go into ArchiCAD Library Packages and load them all up like we did in the first example. So we've got our library packages and our old LCF libraries loaded, and we'll also add in the CI Tools libraries as well, just so that we've got that done. Load all of those. And we'll hit OK. And what's going to happen at this point is that essentially we have 2 copies of the library loaded. So it's going to take quite a lot longer to load the libraries. And it's also going to complain a lot about duplicates because we have effectively duplicated the entire library. So we're going to get probably in the region of thousands duplication error in our library manager, but that's fine. This is just partway through the process. So we'll wait for these libraries to load. Okay, so if I check back in my library manager, you'll see that we have 11,000 duplicates. That's not great, obviously, but we're going to fix that shortly. So we have everything doubled up for now. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the CI Tools menu. Oh, actually, first I'll show you what they're doing for now. So if I go into here and grab one of my objects, this one here, you can see it's still using Kitchen Layout 27. So all of my objects are using the ArchiCAD 27 library still. And what we're going to do is we're going to migrate those through to using library packages instead. So go to the CI Tools menu, go down to Launchpad, and you'll see the option here, Migrate Library Parts. If I click that, it's going to go through and it's going to say, well, do you want me to migrate just the items you had selected? In which case it will do that. I didn't have anything selected, so it's going to do the whole project. I can't think of many reasons you would want to do just a selection, but if you do, you can do. But we're going to do the whole project, so I'll hit migrate. It will just warn me that it's going to take a long time because it may do, depending on the size of your project. And we'll hit OK, and then it will start doing its thing. And what it's doing, it is going through the whole project, looking for ArchiCAD objects that were placed using older versions, and it's moving them to the library package versions instead. So you can see it reports to us that 71 of 295 library parts were successfully migrated. The reason that not all of them migrated is because, in my case, quite a lot of the objects were CI Tools objects, which don't need to be migrated this way because we haven't changed the names. And so you will generally get a number that isn't your whole library. You won't get 295 out of 295 unless you're entirely using old standard library parts that all have new versions. So don't worry about that number. There, hit OK, and that will have made our changes. There we go. So if I go through and select this item here, you can see we are now, it's called now kitchen layout instead of kitchen layout 27, and it's coming from the object library, which is the libpack, instead of the version 27 libraries, which you can see further up here. Sorry, down here, object library 27. So it has migrated everything through now, and if I go back to 3D, we should see that everything is still looking the way that it was. So now that we've migrated everything through in that way, we can go and clear out our duplicate libraries now. So we'll go back to Library Manager, and we can remove those old libraries. So ArchiCAD Library 27, we don't need that anymore. Migration libraries, we don't need those anymore either. And MEP Library 27, we don't need that anymore. Everything else can stay as it is because they're just normal external libraries that we were using, and we've got our ArchiCAD library packages and CI Tools library packages there. So if I hit OK now, that will reload with just the new library packages selected, and we're ready to continue on using this project. However, there are still several steps that you need to make sure are done. As I mentioned, there's things like the favorite conversion. Favorites will not convert all by themselves. So you'll need to run the favorite converter tool to convert those. You'll also want to check that your attributes, in particular surfaces, linking surfaces to textures and that sort of thing, have converted right and that sort of thing. So those are all documented in the article that's on the knowledge base, but we have successfully moved the libraries across. You can see I still have just that small amount that I had earlier, but that's just for historic reasons. In general, you will not see any of these if you didn't have them before. Now, before we finish on this, one thing to note is that there are a couple of things that the migration tool can't migrate automatically at the moment. The main one being stairs, which you can see here. So I had a stair running up here. The stair is still there. It just can't display some of the items. And the reason for that is because each part of the stair is made out of an object. And those, at the moment, we can't do an automated migration of. So what you'll need to do is migrate those manually. So just select your stair if you have any of those placed, and then go through, and in each instance where it refers to a specific object, so for instance, open stringer here, we just need to select it and change it over to the new object, which will generally just be the old name but without a version number after it. So in this case, open stringer. The landing object will convert to landing. Same with treads and rises. Look at our grid. Building break mark is fine. Walking line. So we just go through and swap each of these out. And that's the final one. And then we hit OK on that. And then our stair will display the way we're expecting it to. Obviously, the railing needs doing as well. So we do the same thing for those. So we select the railing. You can go through and do exactly the same. I won't do it in this case, but you can see it's referring to rail 24. So we'll switch it to rail, etc. So it's the same process for those, but that will get your stairs coming through. But aside from that, everything else should have come through fine. And it just makes the whole process of doing that much less time consuming. But please do read the document on how to do that before you do it, because there are a bunch of extra steps that you need to do as well as just migrating the libraries. All right, I'm just going to quickly pause the screen share and see if we've had any questions come up before we finish up. Okay, looks like no questions today, so we'll finish up there. Thanks for your time, everyone. I hope that if you are doing a migration, that it goes well. And if you do have any questions about any of those steps that we talked about, just send those through to nz.support@centralinnovation.com, and our team there can help you out. Thanks for your time otherwise, and I'll catch you at the next one.